Welcome to the Jameela Adams Experience Podcast. It's a place and a space for women over 40 to be inspired, encouraged, and heard. Your host, Jameela Adams, will talk about how life be lifing and how to find joy when overcoming challenges. You're invited to join the experience. Hey everyone, thank you for joining this week's episode. I hope that you had a great week. So this week's topic is the power of setting boundaries. Boundaries can be a powerful tool for improving our relationships with others and our mental health. Boundaries allows for us to communicate our needs and limits to protect ourselves from harmful behavior. We may feel overwhelmed, resentful, or taken advantage of without boundaries. Usually when we talk about setting boundaries, it's about protecting ourselves. It's a given. We will not allow others to dictate our flow when we stand up for ourselves. Boundaries are needed because people will try to run over you and manipulate you whenever possible. It can be challenging to set boundaries, especially if we fear negative reactions or conflict. However, practicing boundary setting can also help us build confidence and assertiveness. It is important to remember that setting boundaries is not about controlling others, but taking responsibility for our well-being. Let's say that again. It is important to remember setting boundaries is not about controlling others, but taking responsibility of our well-being. By saying, I will not allow you to talk or treat me a certain way, we are setting boundaries to ensure that we are treated with dignity and respect. Many moons ago, I remember getting into an argument with an ex one time because he felt it necessary to talk to me I can't even imagine. He was out of pocket, basically. He just really was out of pocket with how he was talking to me, and I just didn't appreciate it. So I told him from here on out, you will not talk to me or treat me that way. And he looked at me dead in my face and says, we're friends. We should be able to talk to each other any way, shape, or form. And I looked at him and I said, I don't know who your friends are, but I don't talk to my friends like that. And I think you should leave. It's interesting, though, because I never really had it in me to say something back to him like that. But at that point, I got tired of it. And I just said, you know what? You need to go. We're done here. Anyway, the thing is, when people get comfortable treating you a certain way because you haven't set boundaries in the past, they will continually overstep. So it's never too late to set boundaries. And it's okay to speak up for yourself. And you have to do that. So give yourself permission and that space to say, hey, look, I don't like how you're talking to me. I don't like how you're treating me. And we're going to have to just end this conversation. And I'm done talking to you. So just remember, you are in control of you. And you need to address it so that way when people want to talk to you, out of pocket or out of line, you have to say, look, that's not cool. I'm not going to let you do that to me. And move on. So boundaries are meant to keep us safe. The more we use them, the more, the better off we'll be. So no one should feel ashamed or put down for setting them. And what's interesting to me is that there are some examples of healthy boundaries as saying no. And no is a complete sentence. If something does not align with your values, your priorities, or anything like that, speak up and say, hey, look, I don't have it within me to do. And it's okay to say, hey, look, I can't do this. I'm not aligned with this. Or you're making me uncomfortable by asking me to do this. And walk away. Without guilt. That's the thing. Walk away without guilt. When we set clear boundaries and communicate with them respectfully, we can improve our relationships and create a more positive, fulfilling life. Let's be honest, though. We all have friends and family who do and say things that irritate us, and you have to look at them and say, where are you coming from with all this? Because, we'll kind of let it slide because they're family and friends. But when you look at it, you are enabling them to treat you like crap. So don't get it twisted. They will manipulate you and will try to do something you genuinely do not want to do. So speak up. Set boundaries. It's okay. It doesn't matter how early in the game or how late in the game, but set boundaries. Protect yourself. Let's be honest. We have to allow others to know there are certain things we will tolerate and will not tolerate. So here are other areas in our lives we can set boundaries for. And one of them I feel is very important, and sometimes we overlook this. It's personal space. By setting boundaries around our personal space, it is essential in maintaining our mental and emotional well-being. This includes limiting physical touch, allowing privacy, and controlling possessions. It's interesting because growing up, you always been told as a little kid, whoever comes up to you, you're supposed to give them a hug or whatever. Now when I look back on it, we were not allowed to set boundaries for ourselves. And it causes us as an adults to allow others to push up on us or touch us, and we don't want to. But because of that was ingrained in us as children, we're like, okay, so I guess I'll have to give her a hug, or I guess I have to have him, touch my shoulder, whatever. And that's not okay. So setting boundaries when it comes to your personal space will allow you to say, hey, look, I don't feel comfortable. That's not cool. I need for you to step back. Give me some space. The other thing, too, you can set boundaries on is your time and your schedule. By keeping that in check and turning down things you really don't have the mental bandwidth or the time to do it, it'll avoid you from having a conflicted schedule, which that's happened to me, but also it helps you to not feel overwhelmed because you are spreading yourself thin. You have too many obligations. So be respectful of your time and your schedule, and it'll allow others to do the same. The main thing about setting boundaries, in this area I should say, is relationships. Relationships can be a source of joy and fulfillment, but they can become draining and toxic if you don't set boundaries. So the thing is, when you find yourself in some way, shape, or form, it feels controlling, and you feel that you're being put upon and talked to in derogatory ways, you need to step back and say, hey, look, I don't like the way you're treating me. I don't like how you're talking to me. And it goes back to I'm protecting myself and my space. So learn how to say no. Learn how to be your best advocate, and people will do the same. And if you find that they're not listening to you or treating you the way you want to be treated, then you just may have to go no contact, and that's okay. Another area that requires you to set boundaries is emotional boundaries. Setting things up for your emotional health and well-being. This includes setting limits on how you want to share with others and how much you want them to share with you. Because sometimes, that family or that friend or whatever, they have no filter and they have like TMI, they just overshare. And you don't want to know that. You don't really want to hear about anything that you feel is inappropriate, like their sex life or anything like that, especially if you didn't ask. So put a boundary, say, look, that's great. I don't want to hear it. Not trying to be rude or disrespectful, but there's certain things about you I don't need to know about. And that's okay. Because to be honest with you, it is a form of manipulation and a form of coercion, because they're dumping on you and you didn't ask for it. So you put the stop sign and say, look, I don't want to hear that. That's a little bit out of my league of expertise and I don't want to hear it. So you just have to say that's something we don't need to talk about. So the other thing too, last one area of having boundaries is digital boundaries. With technology becoming increasingly important in our lives, we have to set boundaries on, answering text messages or that email or even being on social media. For me, I have set boundaries for myself. Have I been living up to it? Yes and no. But I put a timer on my phone to where I only have 6 hours of screen time. Yes, I go over. Sometimes I go under. But it allows me to keep track of what I have to prioritize. And it works if I stay on top of it, which I have. I have been diligent. excuse me. And it allows me to say, okay, I need to work on something else. I need to go read a book or whatever. The whole point is that you need to step away from electronics. Go outside, walk on some grass barefoot, hug a tree, whatever you do, become less dependent on technology. So my challenge for you is recognize the areas in your life that you need to set up boundaries and do it. Set up the boundaries that will keep you safe and keep you from having to go off on somebody because someone overstepped their boundaries. But yeah, that is my challenge to you. Look at your life and see what areas that you need to set up boundaries on and go from there. So with that being said, I want you to be inspired. I want you to be inspiring. I want you to be encouraged. I want you to be encouraging. But most of all, I want you to be you. Set up those boundaries, and I'll chat with you next week. Do you have a passion project you want to bring to life? Let Jameela Adams at Your Service help you. Jameela Adams at Your Service was created to assist businesswomen 40 plus by bringing their passion project to life through website design and marketing. Visit her website, JameelaAdamsAtYourService.com, and register for a free 30-minute consultation. Remember, you have a voice. Use it.